To aliens, they're monsters. To humans, they're good boys. Reaches its dramatic peak when linguist Pipa risks everything by extending her paw through a small opening in the barrier. Rex, with infinite gentleness, touches his nose to her alien hand. In that profound moment of connection, biochemical monitors reveal matching oxytocin spikes, irrefutable proof that dogs aren't weapons, but friends capable of bridging evolutionary divides. The morning sun cast long shadows across the rolling hills of Montana as Captain Elena Ruiz made her final checks. The grass sparkled with dew beneath her boots as she surveyed the landing zone, a simple circle of flattened wheat in Farmer Johnson's field, marked with biodegradable paint that would wash away with the next rain. In the distance, Malmstrom Space Base hummed with activity, its perimeter secured by the finest the United States Space Force had to offer. By her side, Rex sat at attention, his Belgian Malinois frame taut with anticipation. His ears perked forward at every sound, dark eyes scanning the horizon as if he understood the gravity of what was about to happen. Elena reached down to scratch behind his ears, a gesture that made his tail thump against the ground. "Today's a big day, buddy," she murmured. "First contact, and they specifically requested no weapons." Rex looked up at her, head tilted slightly. Elena smiled. In the 2 years they'd worked together, she'd come to recognize this as his way of processing new information. Military working dogs like Rex were more than tools. They were partners, colleagues, friends. Her radio crackled. "Captain Ruiz, we have confirmation. The Federation vessel, Aurora's Dawn, has entered Earth's atmosphere. ETA 12 minutes. Elena straightened, adjusting her dress uniform. "Copy that. Ready and waiting." She glanced at the small gathering behind her, a mixture of diplomatic personnel and military observers, all carefully selected for this historic moment. Colonel Ahmed, her superior officer, stood with arms crossed, his expression unreadable. He'd been skeptical about bringing Rex to a first contact, but President Ochoa had been adamant. Show the aliens humanity's true nature, not just our technology or our achievements, but our capacity for connection. And what better symbol than the oldest interspecies friendship on Earth? High above, breaking through wispy clouds, a shimmer of silver announced the arrival of the Aurora's Dawn. On board the Federation survey vessel, Captain Saren of the Mantisian cluster reviewed the briefing one final time. Her compound eyes flickered across the holographic display, absorbing details about the curious bipeds who called themselves humans. "Relatively peaceful for the past century," she muttered to herself. "Minimal interplanetary colonization, remarkable cultural diversity." Her second-in-command, Zerk, chittered nervously. "But their biological profile is concerning, Captain." Sarun's antennae twitched in agreement. "Indeed. Omnivores with predatory characteristics. But Federation intelligence indicates they're largely herbivorous now, by choice, with synthetic proteins making up the majority of their diet. Still," Zerk hesitated, "the file mentions they keep other creatures as pets. Voluntary symbiosis with lesser species is unusual." "Which is precisely why this first contact is so important," Saren replied, her exoskeleton shimmering with iridescent patterns of authority. "They appear to have domesticated non-sentient herbivores for companionship rather than consumption. A fascinating cultural adaptation." The Aurora's Dawn descended with barely a whisper, its gravitational dampeners leaving the wheat stalks undisturbed. Through the view screen, Saren observed the small delegation of humans, primitive in their reliance on biological bodies, but technologically advanced enough to have detected the Federation's probes last year. "Remember," she instructed her landing party, "we represent the united civilizations of 14 systems. Our mission is peaceful assessment. These humans must prove themselves worthy of Federation membership through their temperament and values." Zerk and 3 other crew members, A Ferrari data specialist, a Kixa medical officer, and a Pralton security advisor nodded in understanding. All were chosen for their diplomatic experience with newly discovered species. What none of them realized was that Federation intelligence had made a critical error in its assessment of Earth's companion animals. The Aurora's Dawn touched down with a gentle hiss, its sleek hull gleaming in the morning light. Elena felt Rex tense beside her, his training barely containing his excitement at new scents and sounds. She placed a calming hand on his back. "Easy, Rex," she whispered. "Remember your training." A seam appeared in the smooth surface of the alien craft, widening into a ramp. Light spilled from within, momentarily blinding the human delegation. Elena blinked, adjusting her vision as 5 figures emerged. They were not what she expected. The leader appeared insectoid, with delicate, translucent wings folded against a chitinous exoskeleton. Behind this being came what looked like a fox-like creature with 6 limbs, a humanoid with pale blue skin, and 2 others whose forms defied easy categorization. Elena took a deep breath, stepping forward as she'd been instructed. Rex moved with her, perfectly healing as they'd practiced countless times. "On behalf of the people of Earth," she began, "I welcome you to—" Everything happened at once. The insectoid leader, mid-step down the ramp, froze, compound eyes widening in what Elena would later recognize as terror. The fox-like alien emitted a high-pitched sound that made Rex's ears flatten against his head. The blue humanoid reached for something at its belt. "Predator!" the leader shrieked, a sound translated by the devices the humans wore. "Apex hunter! They've brought weapons!" Elena looked around in confusion. No one had brought weapons. The agreement had been clear. Then she realized they were looking at Rex. Rex, who had chosen that exact moment to express his excitement with a cheerful bark. The alien delegation scrambled backward in disarray, practically falling over each other to retreat into their ship. The ramp retracted with shocking speed, and before Colonel Ahmed could even activate his translator to explain, the Aurora's Dawn was rising on a column of silent energy. "What the hell just happened?" Ahmed demanded, staring at the rapidly shrinking silhouette of the alien craft. Elena looked down at Rex, who sat beside her, tail still wagging, utterly oblivious to the diplomatic crisis he had just caused. "I think," she said slowly, "they're afraid of dogs." As the Aurora's Dawn rocketed away from Earth's atmosphere, chaos reigned on the bridge. Sarun's wings vibrated with stress as she ordered maximum distance between their vessel and the planet below. "They brought an apex predator to a peace meeting," she hissed, mandibles clicking in agitation. "Did you see those teeth? The muscle density? The speed at which it moved?" Zerk was already at the communications array, transmitting emergency codes to Federation headquarters. "The intelligence was wrong," he reported. "The humans aren't herbivores with predatory features. They're predator masters." The Ferrari data specialist, Pipa, was the only one who remained outwardly calm, her 6-limbed vulpine form hunched over a console. "The creature appeared to be under control," she observed quietly. "It remained by the human side without restraints." "Exactly!" Sarun's antennae stood rigid with alarm. "Psychic dominance. They've evolved the ability to control lesser predators through some form of mental bond. Can you imagine the military applications? An army of killing beasts directed by thought alone?" The Kixa medical officer nodded gravely. "Many death worlds produce such adaptations. The most dangerous predators often evolve to command lesser hunters." Pipa's ears flattened against her skull. Something didn't align with the data she'd gathered. "But our scans indicated a planet rich with biodiversity and cultural expression. Art, music, philosophy. These aren't the hallmarks of a predator civilization." "Camouflage," declared the Pralton security advisor, his crystalline form pulsing with warning colors. "The most dangerous predators disguise their true nature. Sarun made a decision. Set course for Outpost Sigma. We must alert Admiral Corval immediately. Earth represents a Category 5 bioweapon threat. As the Aurora's dawn accelerated toward the nearest Federation waypoint, Pipa returned to her quarters, troubled by the hasty conclusion. She accessed the ship's database, reviewing what little information they had on Earth's ecology. There, in a footnote about human settlements, was a single mention of domesticated canines, described as descendants of wolves, selectively bred for specific functions, including hunting, herding, and companionship. Companionship with a predator? The concept was so alien to Federation, thought that Pipa struggled to process it. In every civilized world, apex predators were either extinct, contained in secure habitats, or existing only in remote wilds. The idea of keeping one as a friend was incomprehensible. Yet, the behavior she'd observed didn't match the profile of a weaponized beast. There had been no aggression, no straining against control, just a curious, alert creature standing calmly beside its human. Pipa made a private notation in her research log. This required further investigation, preferably before the Federation launched a preemptive containment operation. Back on Earth, an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council convened to address what was already being called the Rex incident. Elena found herself in an uncomfortable spotlight, standing before representatives from every major space-capable nation. Rex remained at her side, the inadvertent cause of interstellar panic looking utterly untroubled by the gravity of the situation. "Let me understand this correctly," said the Chinese representative, leaning forward. "Our first contact with an advanced alien federation failed because they were afraid of a dog." Elena cleared her throat. "Yes, sir. Based on their reaction and the translated communications we received during their retreat, they perceived Rex as a weapon or threat." "Ridiculous," muttered the Russian ambassador. "Dogs have been human companions for over 30,000 years." Colonel Ahmed stepped forward. "With respect, we're dealing with beings whose evolutionary history likely never included anything like Earth's predators. Their reaction, while extreme to us, may be perfectly rational from their perspective." President Ochoa, joining via secure hologram from the White House, raised a hand for silence. "The question is not why they fled, but what we do now. They left without establishing communications protocols. We have no way to explain this misunderstanding." "They'll be back," said the British representative grimly. "But next time, they won't come to talk. If they believe we deliberately brought a biological weapon to a peace conference, they'll return with a fleet." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Could humanity's oldest friendship really trigger an interstellar war? "I have a suggestion," she said, surprising herself with her own boldness. All eyes turned to her. "If they fear dogs because they see them as uncontrolled predators, then we need to show them the truth about the human-canine bond." "And how do you propose we do that, Captain Ruiz?" President Ochoa asked, not unkindly. Elena straightened her shoulders. "We assemble a team showcasing every aspect of our relationship with dogs. Not just military working dogs like Rex, but therapy dogs, service animals, search and rescue teams. We document their training, their care, the mutual benefit of our partnership. And when the Federation returns, we're ready with evidence that our dogs aren't weapons, they're family." A moment of silence followed. Then, slowly, President Ochoa nodded. "Make it happen, Captain. You have whatever resources you need." Across the vast expanse of space, Admiral Corval of the Federation Defense Force reviewed the emergency transmission from the Aurora's dawn with growing concern. His scaled skin darkened with stress patterns as the recording concluded. "A controlled apex predator," he rumbled, his voice like stones grinding together. "Brought to a diplomatic meeting around the circular command table of the dreadnought Obsidian." His senior staff exchanged troubled glances. The Mantissian diplomat, Sarun, had transmitted clear visual evidence. The sleek, powerful carnivore, standing obediently beside a human commander, its killing teeth briefly visible when it vocalized. "The implications are disturbing," said General Vex, her luminous tentacles contracting nervously. "If humans can psychically dominate lesser predators—" "Not just dominate," interrupted Science Director Kalia, her crystalline form pulsing with agitation. "Selectively breed. The report indicates this creature, this dog, shows signs of deliberate genetic manipulation spanning thousands of years. They've been engineering organic weapons since before they discovered electricity." Admiral Corval's decision was swift. "Dispatch a containment fleet to the Sol system immediately. We cannot allow a predator master species unrestricted access to interstellar travel. The risk to peaceful worlds is too great." From the corner of the command center, a small voice spoke up. "May I offer an alternative perspective, Admiral?" All eyes turned to Pipa, the junior Ferali linguist who had arrived with the Aurora's dawn. Her presence at this high-level briefing was irregular, but her species' natural talents for cross-cultural communication made her insights valuable. "Proceed," Corval said, his tone making it clear her interruption was barely tolerated. Pipa's 6 limbs shifted nervously, but her voice remained steady. "The behavioral patterns we observe do not align with weaponization. The creature showed no signs of aggression until our delegation displayed fear. Its posture and chemical signatures indicated contentment." Contentment? Science Director Kalia's crystalline surface refracted light in patterns of disbelief. "You're suggesting this apex predator was happy to be controlled by humans?" "I'm suggesting," Pipa continued carefully, "that our understanding of human-canine relations may be incomplete. In many ecosystems, species form mutualistic relationships where both parties benefit. What if this is not domination, but cooperation?" Admiral Corval's scales shifted to a dismissive pattern. "Cooperation with a killing beast? Absurd." "Is it?" Pipa activated her personal data pad, projecting images she'd extracted from Earth's public broadcasts. "I've been analyzing their information networks. These dogs appear in countless contexts, living in human dwellings, interacting with young humans, assisting those with disabilities. This suggests a complex social bond, not merely a master-weapon relationship." The command staff studied the images with varying degrees of skepticism and unease. Scenes of dogs playing with children, guiding blind humans, or simply sleeping on furniture challenged their fundamental assumptions. Admiral Corval remained unmoved. "Clever psychological manipulation for propaganda purposes. The containment fleet launches in 6 cycles." He fixed Pipa with a stern gaze. "However, your linguistic skills may prove useful. You will accompany the diplomatic contingent and assist in delivering our terms to the human leadership." Pipa's ears drooped slightly, but she nodded. "As you command, Admiral." As the meeting dispersed, Science Director Kalia approached Pipa privately. "Your theory is unorthodox," she said, crystal facets glinting. "But not without merit. I suggest you prepare a more comprehensive analysis before we reach Earth. If there is even a remote possibility that these predator relationships are benign, the Council would require evidence before authorizing more permanent containment measures." Pipa's ears perked up. "You mean—" "I mean," Kalia said carefully, "that war should always be our last option. Gather your evidence, linguist. You may be the only one looking for an alternative explanation." On Earth, Elena Ruiz's K9 diplomacy initiative had transformed Montana's Malmstrom space base into what some media outlets were calling the galaxy's biggest dog show. With extraordinary efficiency, experts in canine behavior, training, and human-animal bonding had been assembled from around the world. Temporary facilities housed over 100 dogs and their handlers, representing every aspect of the human-canine partnership. Elena walked through the sprawling complex with Colonel Ahmed, who had been skeptical at first but was gradually warming to the idea. "The therapy dog demonstration is particularly effective," she explained, as they passed a room where golden retrievers and Labradors were demonstrating how they helped reduce stress hormones in humans. Monitors displayed real-time biochemical data, showing the measurable health benefits of canine interaction. "Impressive," Ahmed admitted. "But will aliens understand the concept of emotional support?" "That's why we're documenting everything from multiple angles," Elena replied. "Scientific, emotional, historical. We're creating a comprehensive case for the defense of our oldest friendship." They moved on to the search and rescue demonstration field, where border collies and German shepherds navigated a simulated disaster area, locating hidden volunteers with remarkable efficiency. "No technology can match a dog's nose," the lead trainer explained to a group of international observers. "Even our most advanced sensors can't compete with their ability to detect humans trapped under rubble or snow." In another section, service dogs demonstrated how they assisted humans with disabilities, retrieving dropped items, opening doors, providing stability for walking, and even detecting dangerous changes in blood sugar levels or oncoming seizures. Elena felt a surge of pride watching these demonstrations. Each one reinforced what she already knew. The bond between humans and dogs was something special, something worth protecting. Rex had become something of a celebrity among the gathered experts, his military bearing and intelligence drawing admiration. But even he had been humbled by meeting some of the veteran search and rescue dogs, particularly an aging chocolate Labrador named Blaze who had saved dozens of lives after a devastating earthquake in Mexico. "The recording units are capturing everything," Colonel Ahmed noted as they continued their tour. "But I'm still concerned about the delivery method. How do we get this information to the Federation if they return with hostile intent?" Elena had been pondering the same question. "We broadcast on all frequencies. We make it impossible for them to ignore our message. And we prepare for a controlled demonstration, something that proves beyond doubt that our relationship with dogs is based on mutual trust, not domination." Ahmed frowned. "And if they don't believe us?" Elena watched as a therapy dog named Honey, a gentle pit bull with soulful eyes, rested her head on the lap of a veteran with PTSD. The man's tense expression softened as he stroked her ears. "Then we'll have to hope that some truths are universal," she said quietly, "even across the stars." The Federation containment fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, a formation of 12 warships centered around the massive dreadnought Obsidian. Silent and imposing, they established a blockade formation that would prevent any Earth vessel from leaving the system. On the command deck, Admiral Corval received the latest intelligence briefing. "The humans have been busy," reported his tactical officer. "Increased communications, movement of military assets, gathering of biological specimens at their first contact site. Preparing their organic weapons for war," Corval concluded grimly. "As expected." Pipa, standing quietly at her assigned station, reviewed the intercepted transmissions from Earth. What the tactical officer called biological specimens, she recognized as dozens, perhaps hundreds, of the creatures called dogs. But the patterns didn't suggest weaponization. The activity seemed more educational. "Admiral," she ventured, "the humans appear to be assembling a demonstration, not an attack force. They've been broadcasting open invitations for renewed communication." Corval's scales flickered with skepticism. "More likely a trap. These predator masters are clever." Nevertheless, he turned to his communications officer. "Establish a secure channel to their leadership. Inform them of our terms. All dangerous biological weapons must be contained and registered. No dogs may leave their planet under any circumstances. Federation inspectors will establish permanent monitoring stations to ensure compliance." Pipa's ears drooped. These weren't terms. They were ultimatums that no sovereign species would accept. She caught Science Director Kalia's eye across the command deck. The crystalline being's surface pulsed once, a subtle encouragement to continue her research. While the fleet maintained its imposing presence, Pipa retreated to her quarters to analyze the flood of information humans were broadcasting into space. Unlike her colleagues, who dismissed it as propaganda, she watched hours of footage showing dogs and humans interacting in countless contexts. A small, white dog sitting beside a child's hospital bed, its presence somehow reducing the child's pain. A massive, shaggy mountain rescue dog plunging through snow to find a buried skier. An elderly human weeping with joy as a dog welcomed him home, the animal's entire body wriggling with what could only be described as happiness. Most compelling were the scientific measurements the humans included, brain scans showing matching patterns of neural activity in dogs and humans during bonding. Hormone analyses demonstrating mutual increases in oxytocin during interaction. Comparative DNA studies showing how selective breeding had enhanced traits for cooperation rather than aggression. This was not the relationship between master and weapon. This was something the Federation had no framework to understand. Voluntary, joyful cooperation between predator and prey species. Pipa compiled her findings into a formal report, knowing it might be her only chance to prevent catastrophic misunderstanding. As she worked, a notification flashed on her screen. The humans had responded to Admiral Corval's demands. On Earth, the United Nations Security Council had received the Federation's terms with a mixture of disbelief and determination. They want us to register every dog on the planet as a bioweapon, President Ochoa summarized to the emergency session, and accept permanent alien inspectors to ensure we don't. What, exactly? Train our golden retrievers to conquer the galaxy? Despite the gravity of the situation, a ripple of tense laughter ran through the chamber. Their fear is real, Elena pointed out. She had been invited to address the council based on her first-hand experience with the First Contact and her leadership of the K9 Diplomacy Initiative. However irrational it seems to us, they genuinely believe dogs represent an existential threat. Then we must dispel that belief, declared the Secretary General. Captain Ruiz, your team has assembled compelling evidence of the true nature of the human-canine bond. The question is, how do we make them see it? Colonel Ahmed, who had become an unexpected ally in Elena's mission, stepped forward. We propose a controlled demonstration, a neutral meeting point, perhaps their equivalent of international waters in space, where representatives from both sides can observe a carefully structured interaction. Elena nodded. We suggest the presence of various types of dogs, a therapy dog, a service animal, and yes, a military working dog like Rex. But we also propose transmitting real-time biological data, allowing their scientists to monitor stress hormones, neural activity, and other markers that prove our relationship is based on mutual benefit, not coercion or weaponization. The Council debated the proposal vigorously. Some argued for a more assertive military response, pointing out that Earth's combined space forces might be able to repel a Federation attack. Others suggested surrendering to the demands temporarily while building up defenses. In the end, President Ochoa's voice cut through the debate. We will not categorize humanity's oldest friends as weapons, nor will we fire the first shot in what could become an interstellar war. We will proceed with Captain Ruiz's proposal, a chance for understanding through demonstration and scientific evidence. The Council's response was transmitted to the Federation fleet, a counter-proposal for a peaceful demonstration aboard a neutral space station positioned between Earth and the Federation blockade. Aboard the Obsidian, Admiral Corval received the human response with predictable dismissal. A transparent attempt to lure our representatives into close proximity with their biological weapons, he declared. Rejected. But Science Director Kalia, who had been reviewing Pipa's research findings, raised an objection. "Admiral, the human proposal includes significant safety protocols. They suggest a transparent barrier between species, real-time biological monitoring, and a limited number of specimens. From a scientific perspective, this presents minimal risk with potential for valuable intelligence gathering." "You support this madness?" Corval's scales darkened with disapproval. "I support informed decision-making," Kalia replied evenly. "If these creatures truly are weapons, we should understand their capabilities before determining containment protocols. If they are not—" She left the implication hanging. General Vex, who had been silent until now, added her perspective. "A controlled observation would provide tactical advantages if conflict becomes inevitable. Knowledge of the enemy's biological assets could prove decisive." Corval's scales shifted through patterns of irritation before settling into reluctant acceptance. "Very well, but I want maximum security protocols. Any sign of aggression, and the observation team withdraws immediately." Pipa, who had been monitoring the exchange anxiously, felt a flutter of hope. It wasn't peace, but it was a pause in the march toward war. "Who will lead this observation team?" Corval asked. Before anyone else could speak, Pipa stepped forward. "I volunteer, Admiral. My linguistic training makes me ideally suited to interpret both the humans' communications and their creatures' behavioral signals." Corval studied her for a long moment. "Your recent research suggests a concerning level of sympathy for these predator masters." "Linguist. Not sympathy," Pipa corrected carefully. "Objectivity. I seek understanding before judgment, as all Federation scientists should." Science Director Kalia's crystalline form pulsed with approval. "I endorse Linguist Pipa for this mission, with appropriate security support, of course." After a tense silence, Corval nodded. "Approved. But at the first sign of danger, you will withdraw. That is an order." "Understood, Admiral," Pipa replied, struggling to keep her ears from betraying her excitement. This was her chance to prevent a war, if she could only help both sides see past their fears. Station Unity hung in the void between Earth and the Federation blockade, a hastily repurposed international research platform that normally monitored solar radiation. Its central chamber had been modified according to the negotiated protocols: a transparent aluminum barrier dividing the room, atmosphere scrubbers ensuring no cross-contamination, and an array of sensors to monitor every aspect of the upcoming demonstration. Elena stood on the Earth side of the barrier, dressed in her formal uniform. Beside her, Colonel Ahmed made final checks on the monitoring equipment. On the floor near her feet, Rex sat at perfect attention, seemingly aware of the historic importance of the moment. Behind them waited Honey, the gentle pit bull therapy dog with her handler Maria, and Sage, a calm Labrador service dog with his partner Thomas, a veteran who had lost his legs in a training accident years before. "Nervous?" Ahmed asked quietly. Elena exhaled slowly. "Terrified. The fate of interspecies relations rests on whether we can convince advanced aliens that dogs are friends, not weapons." "When you put it that way, it sounds absurd," Ahmed said with a hint of a smile. "The whole situation is absurd," Elena agreed, "but also deadly serious." The station's automated announcement system chimed. "Federation delegation approaching Docking Bay 2. Elena straightened her shoulders. "Here we go." The Federation representatives entered from the opposite side of the chamber with obvious caution. Leading them was a fox-like being with 6 limbs. Pipa, Elena realized, recognizing her from the first contact attempt. Behind her came 2 crystalline entities whose forms seemed to shift and refract light, and a pair of security personnel with scaled skin and formidable postures. Pipa approached the barrier first, her large eyes taking in the humans and the dogs with intense curiosity. She activated a translation device at her throat. "I am Linguist Pipa of the Federation survey vessel, Aurora's dawn, she said, her voice rendered in clear English by the translator. These are Science Observer Kalia and Medical Observer Trin, with security escorts as agreed upon. Elena stepped forward, careful to keep her movements slow and non-threatening. Captain Elena Ruiz, United States Space Force. This is Colonel Ahmed, our science liaison. And behind us are Maria with Honey and Thomas with Sage. Pipa's gaze fixed on Rex, who remained seated calmly at Elena's side. And this is the Predator from our first encounter? This is Rex, Elena confirmed. A Belgian Malinois trained as a military working dog. He assists with security operations, detection work, and acts as my partner in the field. The Federation security escorts tensed visibly at the word military, their scaled skin rippling with warning patterns. Science Observer. Kalia moved closer to the barrier, crystalline structure glinting under the station's lights. Our sensors are active and recording all biological signatures. Please proceed with your demonstration as planned. Elena nodded, then turned to Maria. Let's start with Honey. Maria stepped forward with the pit bull, whose muscular build and square jaw would likely seem intimidating to the aliens who had never encountered dogs before. But Honey's gentle demeanor quickly became apparent as she sat patiently while Maria explained her work. Honey is a therapy dog, Maria said, her voice steady despite the extraordinary circumstances. She visits hospitals, schools, and veteran centers, providing emotional support to humans experiencing stress, trauma, or illness. Support? How? Pipa asked, her ears tilting with genuine curiosity. Through companionship, Maria explained. Physical contact with dogs like Honey reduces stress hormones in humans and increases positive neurotransmitters. But beyond the biochemistry, she provides comfort simply by being present, by listening without judgment. To demonstrate, Maria had Honey perform some simple interactions, placing her head on a lap, offering a paw, lying down beside her. Throughout, the Federation observers monitored their instruments with intense focus. The canine's hormone levels suggest contentment. Medical observer Trin reported with evident surprise. And the human's stress markers are decreasing through interaction. Next came Thomas with Sage, demonstrating how the service dog assisted with daily tasks, retrieving dropped items, opening doors, even helping Thomas balance when transferring from his wheelchair. Sage has been trained to recognize when I need help, but our relationship goes beyond that, Thomas explained. He's not a tool or a medical device. He's my partner, my friend. The aliens exchanged glances at this, clearly struggling with the concept. Pipa, however, seemed increasingly engaged. Her ears perked forward with interest rather than flattened with fear. Finally, it was Elena and Rex's turn. This would be the most challenging demonstration, as Rex's military training and obvious physical capabilities were precisely what had triggered the Federation's fear. Rex is trained for multiple duties, including protection, tracking, and detection. Elena explained. He can locate hidden explosives, find missing persons, or apprehend dangerous individuals on command. The security escorts shifted nervously, hands moving to their sides where weapons would normally be holstered. But his training is based on play and reward, not fear or coercion. Elena continued. She demonstrated with a simple game, hiding a small toy and having Rex find it, rewarding him with praise and affection when he succeeded. Rex's entire body wiggled with joy at the game, his tail wagging furiously. He works because he enjoys it, Elena explained. Because it strengthens our bond, not because he fears punishment. Throughout the demonstrations, Pipa had been edging closer to the barrier, her scientific caution gradually giving way to fascination. Now, she stood directly opposite Rex, studying him with an intensity that made Elena nervous. May I observe closer? Pipa asked, indicating the barrier between them. Elena glanced at Colonel Ahmed, who gave a slight nod. "Of course," she replied, leading Rex to stand just on their side of the transparent wall. What happened next was unexpected. Rex, who had maintained perfect military discipline throughout the proceedings, suddenly cocked his head to one side, ears perked forward. He made a small whining sound, then lowered his front end in what dog trainers call a playbow, a universal canine invitation to friendship. The Federation security escorts tensed, interpreting the movement as aggressive. But Pipa, to everyone's surprise, mimicked the head tilt, her large eyes fixed on Rex with wonder rather than fear. "He's communicating," she said softly, "not as predator to prey, but as being to being." Science observer. Kalia moved forward, crystal surface pulsing with data patterns. "Our instruments are detecting parallel neurochemical responses in both the canine and linguist Pipa, matching patterns of curiosity and, is that empathy?" Pipa placed one paw-like hand against the barrier. Without prompting, Rex gently touched his nose to the same spot on his side. The simple gesture carried a profound weight in the silence of the chamber. "In all my studies of interspecies communication," Pipa said, her voice filled with wonder, "I have never witnessed such a clear attempt at connection across evolutionary boundaries." Elena felt something shift in the atmosphere of the room, a tension easing, a barrier dropping that had nothing to do with the physical wall between species. "He recognizes you as a person," she said simply. "Not as prey, not as a threat, just another being worthy of friendship." Medical observer Trin consulted a data pad, compound eyes blinking rapidly. Oxytocin levels rising in both subjects. This is the bonding hormone present in many species' parent-offspring relationships. "We have a saying on Earth," Thomas said quietly from behind them. "Dogs are the only beings that love you more than they love themselves. They've evolved alongside us for thousands of years, not as our servants or our weapons, but as our partners." Pipa turned to her colleagues, ears upright with excitement. "This isn't domination or weaponization. This is mutualistic evolution. Two species adapting to benefit from cooperation." The security escorts remained skeptical, scales still flickering with caution patterns. But science observer Kalia's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been the equivalent of thoughtful consideration. "The evidence is compelling," Kalia admitted. "But Admiral Corval will require more than anecdotal observations." "Then let me suggest something unprecedented," Pipa said, straightening to her full height. "A controlled test of direct interaction." The room fell silent. What she was proposing, physical contact between species without the barrier, violated every Federation protocol for encounter with potential bioweapons. "Absolutely not," one of the security escorts declared immediately. "The risk is unacceptable." "What risk, exactly?" Pipa challenged. "Our scans confirm these animals carry no pathogens harmful to our biology. Their behavior has been consistently non-aggressive, despite our obvious fear signals. The humans have demonstrated perfect control through positive reinforcement rather than dominance." She turned back to the barrier, looking directly at Rex, who remained in his friendly posture, tail gently wagging. "I believe this being has no intention of harming me, and I am willing to prove it." Colonel Ahmed stepped forward. Any direct contact would need to be carefully controlled and monitored. Perhaps a small opening in the barrier, limited to a single point of contact. After intense debate among the Federation representatives and emergency consultations with Admiral Corval, who reluctantly authorized the test under protest, a plan was developed. A small, circular section of the barrier, just large enough for a hand or paw, would be temporarily opened. Pipa would extend one limb, and Rex would be allowed to approach under Elena's direction. As station technicians made the necessary modifications, Elena crouched beside Rex, looking into his intelligent eyes. "This is important, buddy," she whispered. "Maybe the most important thing you'll ever do. Gentle, okay? Just like with the children at the hospital visits." Rex's ears twitched at her words. She didn't know how much he understood, but she trusted him completely, trusted the bond they'd built through years of working together. When the moment came, the chamber grew utterly silent. The small portal in the barrier irised open, revealing a circle of empty space between worlds. Pipa, showing remarkable courage, extended one six-fingered paw through the opening. Elena gave Rex a subtle hand signal, releasing him from his stay command. "Say hello, Rex," she said softly. With deliberate slowness, Rex approached the barrier. He sniffed Pipa's extended limb carefully, his sensitive nose taking in the alien scent. Then, with infinite gentleness, he pressed his muzzle against her paw in greeting. The medical monitors recorded everything: the matching spike in oxytocin in both beings, the absence of stress hormones, the synchronization of certain neural patterns despite vastly different brain structures. Pipa's large eyes widened in what might have been delight. "He's warm," she said wonderingly, "and soft." The moment stretched, a bridge across evolutionary divides so vast they could barely be comprehended. Then, following protocol, the portal closed, the barrier restored to its full integrity. But something fundamental had changed. The Federation security escort stood less rigidly. Science observer Kalia's crystalline surface pulsed with patterns of intense data processing rather than alarm. And Pipa. Pipa looked as though she had experienced a revelation. "We must revise every assumption we've made about Earth and its inhabitants," she declared. "These are not weapons. They are not tools of domination. They are—" She struggled for a moment with a concept foreign to Federation thought. "Friends, companions who have chosen to bond with humans, just as humans have chosen to bond with them." Medical observer Trin studied the final readings, with compound eyes, blinking in astonishment. "The biochemical evidence supports this conclusion. The relationship appears to be genuinely mutualistic, with benefits to both species." Colonel Ahmed exchanged a look of cautious optimism with Elena. "Then, you'll report this to your leadership? Explain that our dogs pose no threat to the Federation?" Science observer. Kalia's crystalline form shifted to a configuration that suggested formal authority. "We will present our findings to Admiral Corval and the Federation Council. The evidence is difficult to dismiss." "All we ask is that you look at the facts," Elena said, her hand resting lightly on Rex's head. "Our relationship with dogs isn't about dominance or weaponization. It's about partnership, about two species finding that we're better together than apart." As the Federation delegation prepared to depart, Pipa lingered at the barrier, her gaze still fixed on Rex with undisguised fascination. "In all my studies of interspecies communication," she said quietly, "I never imagined finding a model on an uncontacted world that surpasses our own understanding of mutualistic relationships." She placed her paw against the barrier one more time, and Rex, without prompting, touched his nose to the same spot. "Perhaps we have as much to learn from Earth as Earth has to learn from the Federation." When the Federation delegation returned to the Obsidian, Admiral Corval received their report with open skepticism. "You touched one of these predators?" he demanded, scales flaring with patterns of disbelief and disapproval. "Violated containment protocols based on a theory?" Pipa stood her ground, flanked by science observer Kalia and medical observer Trin. "I made a calculated decision based on overwhelming evidence, Admiral. The results speak for themselves." She activated a holographic display, showing the biological data recorded during the interaction, the matching hormone profiles, the absence of stress markers, the neural synchronization patterns. "This isn't subjective interpretation," medical observer Trin added. "The biochemistry is clear. These dogs form genuine social bonds with humans, based on mutual benefit rather than dominance. Admiral Corval paced the command deck, scales shifting through complex patterns of thought. Even if what you say is true, that these creatures are companions rather than weapons, it doesn't change the fact that humans have domesticated apex predators. What does this tell us about their fundamental nature? It tells us they value connection over dominance, Pipa replied boldly. That they seek to build bridges rather than establish control. Their first impulse upon meeting us wasn't to display power, but to share their oldest friendship. Science Director Kalia's crystalline form pulsed with authoritative patterns. The scientific evidence supports a significant revision of our assessment of human civilization. Admiral, their relationship with these canines represents a form of mutualistic evolution unprecedented in our records. General Vex, who had been silently observing the exchange, finally spoke. From a strategic perspective, Admiral, this new understanding suggests diplomatic engagement would be more productive than containment. A species capable of forming such bonds might become valuable allies, rather than potential threats. For a long moment, Admiral Corval remained silent, his scaled form radiating tension. Then, gradually, his color patterns shifted to a configuration Pipa recognized as reluctant acceptance. Prepare a full report for the Federation Council, he ordered finally. All data, all observations, all implications. If we are to reverse our containment directive, the evidence must be irrefutable. Pipa's ears perked up with barely contained excitement. And in the meantime, Admiral, Corval's gaze fixed on her with an intensity that would have once made her shrink back. In the meantime, linguist Pipa, you will prepare for a second diplomatic mission to Earth. Since you appear to have developed a rapport with these humans and their companions, you will serve as our primary envoy. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was a beginning. On Earth, the news of the successful demonstration spread rapidly. The image of Rex gently touching noses with an alien diplomat through the barrier became an instant global sensation, appearing on news broadcasts and social media feeds worldwide. Elena found herself thrust into an unexpected spotlight as the face of canine diplomacy. She and Rex were invited to address the United Nations General Assembly, where she spoke passionately about the lessons humanity could learn from our oldest interspecies friendship. Dogs teach us that differences in biology, in evolution, even in basic nature, don't have to be barriers to understanding, she told the assembled delegates. They remind us that communication transcends words, that trust can bridge divides, and that sometimes the simplest gestures, a wagging tail, a gentle touch, can mean more than the most eloquent speech. Behind the scenes, preparations accelerated for a formal treaty with the Federation. The initial fear had given way to cautious optimism, with diplomatic teams drafting protocols for cultural exchange, scientific collaboration, and, most importantly, the status of Earth's canine companions in interstellar law. 1 week after the demonstration aboard Station Unity, Elena received a priority communication from Colonel Ahmed. "They're coming back," he informed her, his usually stern expression softened by something like wonder. Not just a delegation this time. The entire Federation Council has authorized a formal treaty signing on Earth, and they've specifically requested that it take place somewhere dogs are present in their natural context with humans. Elena could hardly believe it. "Where did you tell them?" Ahmed's mouth quirked in a rare smile. "Central Park, New York City, on a Saturday afternoon." The day of the treaty signing dawned clear and bright. A perfect spring day in New York. Central Park had been partially cordoned off for security, but deliberately left open enough for regular visitors to continue enjoying the space, including, crucially, people walking their dogs. A temporary pavilion had been erected near the Great Lawn, with Federation and Earth flags flying side by side. Around it gathered an extraordinary assembly: world leaders, diplomats, scientists, and a carefully selected group of dogs and their handlers, representing the full spectrum of the human-canine partnership. Elena stood with Rex at the edge of the gathering, watching as ordinary New Yorkers walked past with their pets, casting curious glances at the alien visitors. The Federation delegation, led by Admiral Corval himself, seemed equally fascinated by the casual display of humans and dogs coexisting peacefully. Pipa, now officially designated as Federation Interspecies Envoy, approached Elena with an expression of delight. "Captain Ruiz," she greeted, extending a paw in the human handshake she had studied. "This is remarkable. So many different types of these companions, all peacefully interacting." Elena smiled, shaking the offered paw carefully. Just an average day in a city park, people and their dogs enjoying each other's company. Rex, recognizing Pipa from their previous encounter, gave a soft whine of greeting. The Ferali's ears perked up immediately. "He remembers me," she said with evident pleasure. "Dogs never forget a friend," Elena confirmed. Admiral Corval approached, his scaled form imposing, but his color patterns displaying what Elena had learned to recognize as diplomatic courtesy rather than alarm. "Captain Ruiz, your canine diplomacy has accomplished what centuries of Federation protocol could not: a complete reassessment of our first contact procedures." Elena nodded respectfully. "Sometimes the oldest wisdom is the best. Admiral, humans have learned over thousands of years that friendship begins with open hands, not raised weapons. Or, in this case," Pipa added, with what might have been the Ferali equivalent of a smile, "open paws and wagging tails." The treaty signing proceeded with the careful formality of historic moments. The document, translated into 12 Earth languages and 8 Federation dialects, established Earth as a sovereign member of the galactic community, with special provisions recognizing the unique status of domesticated animals as cultural and emotional partners rather than resources or weapons. Most significantly, a new interspecies exchange program was announced. Federation scientists would study the human-canine bond, while Earth representatives would learn about similar partnerships that had evolved on distant worlds. As the ceremony concluded, a small commotion drew Elena's attention to the edge of the gathering. A family with a young child had stopped to watch, their golden retriever puppy straining excitedly at its leash. The security perimeter had kept them at a distance, but the puppy's enthusiasm was drawing smiles from both human and alien diplomats. Admiral Corval, noticing Elena's distraction, followed her gaze. "One of your companions?" he asked, scales shifting in what she now recognized as curiosity. "Just a family out for a walk with their puppy," Elena explained. "A young dog, still learning how to behave." Corval studied the scene, his alien features unreadable. Then, to Elena's surprise, he made a gesture to the security team. "Invite them closer," he ordered. "If we are to understand this bond, we should observe it in its most natural state." The family approached cautiously, the father holding tightly to the puppy's leash. The child, a girl of perhaps 6 years, stared wide-eyed at the assembled aliens. "This is Luna," the girl announced proudly, pointing to the wriggling golden retriever. "She's my best friend." Pipa crouched down to the child's level, her 6-limbed form somehow managing to appear non-threatening. "Hello, Luna," she said softly. "Hello, young human. I am Pipa of the Federation." The girl showed no fear, only fascination. "You look like a fox. Luna likes foxes. She always tries to chase the ones in the park." Her father looked mortified, but Pipa made a sound that translated as laughter. "I am somewhat fox-like. Yes. May I greet Luna?" After a nod from her parents, the girl guided her puppy forward. Luna, with the characteristic friendliness of her breed, immediately tried to lick Pipa's face, causing several Federation security personnel to tense momentarily before relaxing when they saw the Ferali's delighted reaction. "She likes you," the girl declared. "And I like her," Pipa replied, carefully petting the puppy's golden head. "She is very soft." Admiral Corval watched this exchange with what Elena imagined might be the Federation equivalent of wonder. "In all my cycles of diplomatic service," he said quietly, "I have never witnessed such immediate trust between different species." "That's the gift dogs have given us," Elena replied. "They remind us that friendship can transcend differences. That connection doesn't require sameness." She looked around at the gathering, humans and aliens, diplomats and ordinary citizens, all brought together by the simple, profound bond between species. Maybe that's why they were the perfect ambassadors for first contact. They've been teaching us how to communicate across boundaries for 30,000 years. As the formal proceedings concluded, Elena found herself walking through the park with Pipa and Rex, Admiral Corval having returned to his ship to communicate the successful treaty signing to the Federation Council. "Your planet will face many challenges as it joins the galactic community," Pipa said thoughtfully. "There are species who will find your ways strange, your biology threatening, your history disturbing. Like you did at first," Elena noted with a smile. Pipa's ears flicked in acknowledgement. "Precisely. But now, I see that Earth's unique evolutionary path has created something remarkable, a model of interspecies cooperation that might benefit worlds far beyond your solar system." Rex trotted between them, occasionally glancing up as if following their conversation. The spring sun cast dappled shadows through the trees, and around them, the park pulsed with the ordinary miracle of a Saturday afternoon. Children playing, birds singing, dogs and humans enjoying each other's company. "Will you continue your work as a military handler?" Pipa asked after a comfortable silence. Elena considered the question. "I've been offered a new position, heading up an interspecies communication program that will incorporate what we've learned from our relationship with dogs into our approach to extraterrestrial contact." "An excellent choice," Pipa approved. "And Rex?" "Where I go, he goes," Elena said simply, reaching down to scratch behind his ears. "We're partners." As they reached a quiet corner of the park, they paused to watch a group of dogs playing in a designated off-leash area, running, tumbling, communicating in the ancient language of posture and movement that needed no translation. "Your Federation had it backwards, you know," Elena said softly. "You thought we had dominated these apex predators, bent them to our will. But the truth is, they changed us as much as we changed them. They taught us empathy, cooperation, unconditional love. They made us better humans." Pipa's large eyes reflected the sunlight as she watched the playing dogs. "Perhaps that is what all true friendships across boundaries should do. Not erase differences, but celebrate them. Not demand submission, but invite cooperation." Rex sat between them, alert and content, a living bridge between worlds. In the distance, the spires of New York City rose against the blue sky, and beyond them, invisible but present, the ships of the Federation waited in orbit, no longer a blockade, but an escort into a wider universe. "So," Elena asked, "ready to learn more about humanity's best friends?" Pipa's ears perked forward with unmistakable enthusiasm. "Captain Ruiz, I believe this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship between all our species." Rex, as if understanding perfectly, wagged his tail in agreement.